Hey guys, welcome back to my Anime Heroes Customs. For this week, we are going back to our gaming franchise builds. Monsters from the Tales of Symphonia Dawn of New World game. Very different build setups from our usual human action figures. These are monster customs. Hope you enjoy these. They'll be the 110th and 111th commission project. Join my Patreon if you want to see more builds and customs in the future. Names of patrons will be included at the end of every video as a thank you for their support on this channel. Check out link in the description box below if you want to support my channel. I thank you in advance and cheers! Let's do this! Let's take a look at our base bodies. I'm using an SHF body chan and Hanshi Arts 3D printed head and a Figma horse that was directly shipped from Japan. Let's take a look at the SHF body chan and the head sculpt first. This is for Fenia. She is a monster from the Tales of Symphonia series, and she is a very small, petite female figure that has wings, and it looks like a humanoid, like a bird humanoid fusion. And we've asked Hanshi Arts to 3D print this head sculpt for us, and that looks good in terms of proportion. And now let's take a look at the Figma horse body. This is my first time holding this piece of action figure. I think it looks really good, and I'm kind of scared on how I will execute this Orion wolf from the Tales of Symphonia series. But I think we can get creative with it, and let's see how it goes. The figure is really good. It looks sturdy, it looks well sculpted, and let's do this. Let's start with Orion's build. First, let's take off the unnecessary accessories that we don't need for this Figma horse. For example, like the reins, the saddle, and so I'm just cutting off some of the accessories that we don't need for this. I need to get this body into a level of surface that it has no detail, so I might remove and shave some parts, and I have to remove this brown saddle so that I have a good base to start with. I started to shave off details from the Figma horse, but I still need to remove that brown saddle. I shaved off also the ears and some details off of the horse's head because I think I might use this, but I'm still thinking of another base to use for the wolf head, so these are just options. After shaving some of the details, I'm using my epoxy sculpt to add sculpting to the missing parts, like the whole body. I need to remove that brown part and fill it up with putty, and I also need to make these hooves into claws, which looks something like this. I've already filled in the body gap that was missing into the horse's body and used the epoxy sculpt to make it smooth, but now it's a little bit heavy, so we'll work that out later. And now I've added some claw paws to the hooves to make it more into a wolf stance. Now, regarding the head of Orion, I am going to change my base. Instead of using the Figma horse face sculpt, I'm using this Lego dragon ice dragon model from the Ninjago series. I have this for a while now because I used to collect Lego, so I'm using this base because it has a proper shape rather than the horse head. So let's do this. If you have been following my channel for a while, you know that I'd like to get creative with the parts that I use for all of my customs. So I have these Lego parts that I'm gonna use to build the head of Orion. So I have this picture of Orion on my tablet, and I'm just gonna gauge some of the parts into which I will use to extend the ears. And also I need to add a bottom mouth, so the dragon head has that bottom mouth, but I need to add a lot of sculpting and a lot of molding to achieve the look of the Orion head. Because of the ears, it has a big fluffy protruding ears, so it's gonna be a challenge, guys. Please have patience with me. Fast forward, Orion now looks like this. So I've molded his basic shape of the head and the tail. So I used some foil and the extended Lego materials and some masking tape to have a basic shape of the head. It looks something like this. And I've also added a tail that has a Lego Bionicle joint that can be posable for the tail. Now what I have to do is mix in another session of sculpting with epoxy sculpt and hot glue so that it can be a little bit lighter and I can have a little bit more texture on to the body and to the head. So I'm gonna fill in the gaps that I need and add details that I need for the legs and the tail. Another fast forward, I've already done majority of the sculpting. Now I can paint the whole body base white. So after adding some details to the legs, to the head, and to the tail, I'm gonna paint everything primer white so that it has a good white base, and then add in the green detail colorings around the body, the tail, and the head. Now let's move on to Fenia. The first thing that I did was to color in the head sculpt, make the face flesh tone, and color in their hair red. Together with that, I also colored in the torso flesh tone, and I have this beige fabric that will become the base of the legs because the legs need to be put together because she's wearing a very tight skirt. And I also have these wings from a Lego build that I'm gonna use as template for her wing arms. From the Lego template, I devised this wing template, which has a better look into Fenia's wing arms. And I'm gonna use a dark blue fabric for the upper part of the arm and a red fabric for the lower part of the wings that has feathers. These will make up the colors of the wings, so I can also make them light. I've painted Fenia's upper torso flesh skin tone that can match her face. And now I'm taping off her legs together with some masking tape because her legs need to be stuck together. It's like a mermaid tail from the Aquarius custom that we did. But this time, we're gonna cover it with some flesh beige skin tone fabric that I have. Put it together tightly. Sorry for the car sounds. And then I'm gonna add red details from a red fabric for, so that we can get her designs on her lower part of the body. Fenia's tight skirt goes all the way to the floor, and she has this circle of fabric that goes around her. So I made this circle template from a red fabric that I've put spikes around it, and I've cut the center off, and I'm just gonna glue it to the bottom of her leg so that it can drape down onto the floor just like her peg. And I'm gonna add her details that goes up towards her thighs. Fast forward on Fenia, now her skirt looks like this. I've added a red folder at the bottom of her legs so that the draped skirt on the floor can retain its form. Then I've added red fabric on her waist and on her knees. Another fast forward, I've added even more details with some red folder because she has spiked details across her thighs that matches with the red draping skirt. Now this is the look of her wings. I've added the dark blue on her upper arm and the red on her wings. It has a folder inside that housed the template that I showed you earlier, so it becomes light and it can retain its form. Then showing you a messy workstation. Now Fenia looks just like this. I've added more details on her wings and I've attached it already to the body. Just a few more details and then we're done. Zing, 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 zing. Finally, they are done. Fenia and Orion, monsters from Tales of Symphonia Dawn of New World customs are done. Let's first take a look at Fenia. These builds have been very difficult and very simple at the same time. I think I was just very scared at the onset of taking on these projects because they're very different from my usual builds. Taking a look at Fenia, she's more of our usual builds because she's still using the SHF body chan body. But I think with all her details, it made her a little bit more on the difficult side. And I think I really enjoyed how she came out. She has a great flare on her wings and the use of fabric on her clothing. And I've also really enjoyed making her wings and her skirt. Now let's take a look at Orion. I think this build is one of the most difficult parts of this whole project. It was my first time using the Figma horse base body and I didn't know what to expect out of this build. Turning a horse figure into a wolf was no easy task, but I did my best and I've had to get creative with the parts that I had to use. I've retained most of the articulation of the Figma horse body, and I've painted in the details that I could to make it more anime and game accurate. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. I really enjoyed this and I learned a lot. So what are we waiting for? Let's jump straight to action poses. Thank you guys.